everyone. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. Here we are. It is Wednesday, November 22nd. Today is the day that we are officially starting Sagittarius season. And I heard a great metaphor that I want to repeat here. And it was like Sagittarius is all about like the adventure and really kind of meeting the most epic or biggest vision of your life. Kind of like, think of it like a myth. Like it wants to live that mythology, right? And usually in the story, like the antagonist or the big boss, the thing that you have to face, shows up sort of later in the story. First you get to meet your hero and kind of go on, their discovery journey. Then they meet the boss. And it's like in this version of Sagittarius season, instead of meeting the boss later, it's like you open the book and there's the boss, right? Like now you're at the boss level. And so this very big energy is coming forward of something that you must face to move forward. And we'll go deeper into that with the message from the team. So first we're starting with this sort of epic confrontational feeling of Sagittarius energy, and it has to do with Mars sextiling with Pluto. So Pluto is all about, what needs to be faced or purged so that you can be in your power, and Mars is all about taking action. And when they're in a sextile, that means that they are working together. And these are kind of two of the more malefic planets, meaning their lessons tend to be on the more intense side. So it's letting you know every obstacle is an opportunity to grow. Like what's in front of you is not really meant to stop you. It's meant to get you to grow. So again, when we get to the message from the team, it'll go more into that because this is the energy that we're feeling. So what else is happening energetically? Well, we're also approaching the full moon in Gemini. That's going to be coming up on Monday, the 27th. So we're getting closer to this full moon energy. Something's accumulating. We're starting Sagittarius season with this big this big energy of like being in the boss fight suddenly. Maybe not feeling like I was ready for it, right? Like in fact, the start of the week when we started with Monday, the energy was much softer, and even this feeling of like maybe things are moving more in the direction I want them to go, and now we're in this very crunchy, intense, in-your-face energy. And there's also another layer on top of that, which is this desire to push yourself, right? With Mars involved, that is a sort of like an energy that wants you to push, 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 push. You got to be careful, because if you give into that energy, you're going to go into overwhelm, fatigue, and burnout, all of those things, which is going to make this boss level feel a lot harder than it has to be. So we have to practice this pacing ourselves while being pushed forward into a very intense energy. And with that, energetically speaking, there's a lot happening with solar weather. We're getting in fact, on Sunday, we had a high KP index. We've been sort of in the mid-high range, and we're kind of now sort of coming down. But we're currently, I think, at a level 4, and again, it's 4 out of 9. So that kind of puts us in a mid-high range, which means we're getting this intense energy from the sun. We're having a lot of intense interaction on the cosmic level, and the universe is pushing us to face something that feels like maybe bigger than we feel like we can handle, or it feels like the biggest thing that we've got to handle. That's a lot going on. So going to the message from the team right now, there is a theme where it's like everybody on the planet has a raw nerve around something. Your raw nerve, when touched, creates a lot of emotional, creates a lot of fear, can create a lot of intense energy and emotion coming out of you, kind of like breaks you down to sort of like your most primitive level when this nerve gets touched. And everybody's got one, and everybody's nerve is based on something else. Like for some people it might be around money, some it might be around their business, about their relationship to themselves, you name it, that could be the nerve point. Well, the theme seems to be that the nerve's been touched. So that's again, imagine starting a story, but you're in the story, and it starts with this boss fight, which you didn't see coming, but there it is. Nerve is now touched. So the question I had for the team is why. Like, why is this being touched right now? Like, why does it seem like everybody is an exposed nerve, right? And one of the things they said is because it's time to close the cycle. There's a cycle here. This nerve shouldn't be so raw and exposed. We weren't really meant to walk around with this very raw, tender area that's so reactive, right? That should have been addressed and healed. And many times I think we do try to heal it, or we try to avoid touching it. We're just like, ooh, that area, whenever we go there, that doesn't feel good. I don't like looking at it. I don't even want to think about it, because even thinking about it gets me emotional and worked up. And it's like Sagittarius is right. Like, Sagittarius is the sign of like the higher levels, right? We're going into higher levels when we're hitting Sagittarius. Scorpio is like the gateway through, but Sagittarius is like the ascent upwards. So when we get into these higher realms, they're like, hey, you can't bring that with you here. You must deal with it now. And we're, as we're moving forward in time, we're getting closer and closer to major ascension events. We are on the mountain. We are deep. We are up the hill at a very steep incline now. So again, it's kind of a similar message where it's like, this can't come with you. It doesn't serve you. It's actually getting in your way. And the stories that happen when this nerve gets touched, all the triggery stories, is all the weight that's holding you down. It's how it holds you into lower cycles. So it's time to end that. And this is the World card. And the World card represents the end or the closure of a cycle. It also talks about achieving success. So the good news is they're giving us this awareness and this very in our face, like, face this now, so for our own success. So the world represents success through responsibility. You have to respond to it now, right? And the responding to it and dealing with it and addressing it addressing it head on right now is the key to your success. It will close this cycle. So it's feels like it's being brought up in our face, and you're like, deal with it now, because moving forward, you're going to need some things that addressing and closing this cycle will give you. And when I asked, okay, what is the reason? Like, what are the things that we're getting if we address this cycle now? So if we address the cycle and we face our boss level fight head on and work through it, one, we're going to find out new things about ourselves that's going to give us something that maybe we thought we lacked. Maybe we thought we couldn't overcome. Maybe we had a belief system that was actually holding us back. And by literally addressing the situation head on, you get to find out that you do have those things that maybe you thought the whole time you didn't have. Like if it's around money, maybe you got really fixed in your mind about money feeling kind of finite, like maybe this is all I have. And by dealing with that issue around money head on, you learn like just how resourceful and how much you actually can draw in and attract, and that it is an endless flow. There was no actual stop. It was just a stop in the mind, right? One of the other things we get is we get clarity, and we learn to be decisive through this process. It's like all the BS clears, and we can finally see things clear, and we get really decisive from it instead of letting our thoughts wander and create these monsters that we end up having to face, create the raw nerve that gets touched. Instead, we learned, like, I made that. Like, I interpreted something this way and created this raw nerve. I created this monster. And now I can see I don't have to. So it's like all the noise stops and the clarity comes in, and it closes the cycle. So one of the meanings of the Seven of Cups in the reverse position is like, that's done. You've chosen, right? Now we get to move forward with a new choice. So there's a new choice that's going to be offered to you, a new cycle, some new system can begin, and the old one, it gets to find closure. So it's actually for our good, although it feels really intense and maybe a little too confrontational and a little too raw for people. I've seen a lot of overwhelm. I've seen a lot of exhaustion from this. I've seen a lot of like, I just don't want to deal with that anymore. Like, why? And I don't believe the universe is a cruel place. I do believe it's benevolent, but benevolent doesn't always mean soft and gentle. It just means that it's not doing it in a malicious way. But many times what we might interpret as cruel or unfeeling is actually wisdom. And this is where we get into talking about the difference between the vibration of love and the vibration of wisdom, because you can have love without wisdom, but you can't have wisdom without love. And that's something we should talk about at a future point. But we're learning this because fourth density, which is where we currently reside, we're in this density. Now we're at the start of it. We're not deep into it yet. We're getting deeper and deeper all the time. But this is where we are. And this is the lessons of love. And we're going to learn about love in all of its greatness, as well as possible shortcomings that like being short-sighted by love what that can create, right? Those are some of the lessons we learn in the fourth density. Now the fifth density, so when people talk about going to 5D, right? That's the wisdom vibration, and it includes love. But remember, fourth density doesn't always include wisdom. So the closer we move to 5D, the more we have to incorporate or learn the lessons of wisdom. And right now, maybe from an early 4D perspective, we might say it's really kind of an ass move from the universe to put the very thing in front of my face that causes me the most grief or scares me the most or makes me feel the most vulnerable. Like, that doesn't feel very loving, universe. And if you're just looking at it from a place of love, universe might agree. The universe is actually bringing it to you from a place of love and wisdom. And when you add wisdom, the universe says, yes, this might not feel good right now, but by you learning this lesson and moving through it and closing the cycle, you can finally overcome it and you can allow it to end. And therefore, you never have to learn this lesson again. So wouldn't you like to get that over with now instead of having it plague you as you continue to move forward? So wisdom. And again, so we have to move into that place of like, it's almost like thinking about a parent and a child. I love to use the metaphor of when a parent is teaching a child to tie their own shoes, right? In the beginning, the parent will tie the shoes for the child, and then the parent will demonstrate how to tie the shoes for the child, and then encourage the child to tie their own shoes. But if the parent always ties the shoes for the child, for example, let's say the child, like you say, tie your own shoes, and then the kid starts breaking down, and the parent, out of love and, not wishing to see the child suffer, bends down and ties the shoe, well then the child's problem is temporarily solved. But the issue of being able to do it for themselves has not been resolved. And if you continue to do it in that manner, well, this child would grow up thinking, I can't do this for myself. I need someone else to help me. And so the wisdom approach is you start by tying the shoes. You then teach them how to tie their shoes. You then encourage them to tie their shoes with support. And then one day you say, okay, you're ready now. You can do this. I've seen you do it. You can do it. And the child will cry and the child will push back and have a tantrum and say they can't do it. And the wise parent will stand back and say, I know you can do it. Just take a deep breath, slow down, and try again. And what that does is it gives all the power back to the child. And it shows the child that they actually are self-sufficient and that they can overcome challenges. And it helps to program their mind to know that if I can do this, I can do the next hard thing. And that child will then be programmed with the idea of, I can meet my own challenges. And so what looks like in the moment a parent being cold or unfeeling is actually a parent using wisdom to think about the future of this person. How is this moment shaping your character, right? And so the universe does the same thing for us. It does love you and it does want you to feel good, but it's not going to put that ahead of what's best for you, right? And that's, again, this card right here represents that. What's best for you. Not what's easiest for you or most convenient for you, but what's best for you. And what's best for us at this time is to meet this boss level, to have this obstacle that we learn to overcome, and then close that cycle so a whole new set of adventures can begin. And this can be done. You can leave this in the past. This is a heavy thing. You're not supposed to bring it with you up this mountain. It's time to let it go. And they're kind of putting that, they're just kind of putting their foot down saying, nope, you're going to look at this right now. Now, where we need to go and where we need to be careful of is, again, with Mars involved in this. Mars is like, okay, let's do it. And there might be some of you might be strong fighters. You're like, you got your sword, you got your shield, you're like, on it, let's do it. And you might have a desire to push yourself to be like, I'm going to beat this thing down now and push hard. We're not getting a lot of energetic support for pushing hard. That is going to lead to overwhelm, exhaustion, and further breakdown. So we've got to pace ourselves with this. It's like, I know so many people who are going through their own things right now. And it's like, I don't want to look at this anymore. I'm so tired of it. Even just being with it feels exhausting. And so there is this sort of desire to like knuckle down, power through, that's coming from Mars. We got to be careful. Too much of that is going to burn us out. So we've got to be able to pace ourselves. And the way that we pace ourselves is we're like, what's reasonable for me to give in this moment? And then I need to stop. So, in my own example, and then again, this isn't really the boss level fight, but I'm just trying to think, how have I been utilizing this energy lately? So it is Black Friday time of the year. I have an Etsy shop. It's on sale. It's an amazing sale. And if you're not involved in it, get on my mailing list so I can send you the 60% off code. So it's big sale stuff going on, right? Which means that as a shop owner that sells physical items, I need to make sure all of my stock is fully stocked and ready to go. And there are a lot of new things that I've added to it. So I have a lot of work on my plate. And I have been so conscious of really trying to have better sleep hygiene. Like get myself to bed earlier, stop my day earlier. And I caught myself this week grinding, right? I've been staying up later than normal. And because I've already been working on my own sleep hygiene, I can't grind like that anymore. That's kind of Therese from maybe like 6 or 7 months ago could grind like that because her adrenals were already like fully fatigued. So I wasn't really feeling it. I was just kind of in that same state of like, I'm already tapped out, so I don't feel it. Now that my adrenals have been nurtured and loved and are starting to get healthier, when I do that, it's worse. Like it's so much worse. And I'm my ego is like, you've done this in the past, you can do this right now. So I've tried it, and I like this morning I woke up and I'm like, nope, I gotta stop this. Like this is a train that's going off the tracks, and I can feel myself going out of alignment now. And if I don't put the brakes on and could put the kibosh on this and put the boundary back down, I'm gonna be where I was at the beginning of cleaning up my sleep. I'm going to be back there, maybe further back. And so my team was like, stop doing this just because you feel like you can. Again, Mars is activated, so we feel it. Doesn't mean you actually can. You got to actually assess your situation. So take that example, apply it to your own life wherever you feel like this sort of push on you to do something about it, maybe based on what's being triggered for you, what fear is being activated. Because again, that behavior, even in my scenario, it's fear activated. I'm worried if I don't hustle, I'm going to run out or I'm going to have a worse problem later. That's not based on truth. That's based on anticipation, embracing, and fear, right? So we got to be clear about that, because as you can see, it's so easy to let it run you right now. So the message from the team is, here we are. Yes, you're facing something. It's for your highest good. It's closing a cycle, and it's going to open up, it's going to open up your discernment more. It's going to clear a heavy burden off of your back. and it's going to give you new things to decide about. New goals will emerge, new, more exciting things to focus on. So yes, we're going through it, and make sure that you're pacing yourself in the process so that you're not getting worn out by your nerves or by how hard you're pushing to try and resolve it. So with that, let's take a look at this week's karma cards. All right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what's the message you have for this week? And we've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and you feel, what is the guidance you need right now? Are you looking for action-related guidance, or do you want to know how things resolve over the next week? And of course, you can always choose both. And while you're deciding, the timing for this reading is Wednesday, November 22nd through November 29th. And the flavor of this reading: Mars is here, and I told you Mars was monkeying around, so we got some Mars energy which is very much about action and energy and pushing, so we got to be careful with that. In the sign of Pisces, Pisces is about your, like, the bigger picture, the biggest picture really, but your dreams, how things are connected, the subconscious mind. In the 5th house, which is the fun house, which is really interesting because nothing about this feels fun yet. So I'm interested to hear how all of this comes together. So if you've chosen action, your spiritual action at this time is to energize your dreams with the trust of a child. So what they're letting you know is, yes, you're at the boss level. Yes, this raw nerve is being touched. What are you supposed to give your energy to, right? So we've got all this fear or something that feels very overwhelming or nervy being activated, and it's so easy to give all of our attention to it, all of our emotional energy. Like, this is real, my nerve is raw, I feel it, I feel very like vulnerable or exposed or whatever it is that's coming up. As that's happening, our default thinking is give all my attention and energy and emotion to what's happening here. They're letting us know that the energy or the action really is to energize what you want with the trust of a child, that the universe hears me, it's responding, it loves me. This is the thing that gets my energy, or this is the thing that will manifest, not this scary thing in front of me. So again, it's that you're being confronted with the thing that you're most worried about, most afraid of, that feels most insecure. And you're being asked to trust that the good things, the big dreams and the wonderful things you want in your life are actually what's going to happen. But you have to pour your energy into it. So I want you to think about it like you had 2 glasses in front of you. Which one will you fill? That's the one you're going to experience. So here you're being offered the big scary thing, and over here is what you want. And your attention, your emotions, and your energy are the fluid you're pouring into one of these vessels. Pick wisely. If you catch yourself pouring into your fear, stop, and now pour a bunch of energy over here, meaning you're going to have to stop yourself, be self-aware enough to catch yourself going through the spiral and say, even though this is how I feel, this is what I want, and then name what you want. So if you're going through a situation where maybe it's about money and you feel like you're losing money, then you talk about how no matter what I put out, the money comes back times 10, comes back times 3, whatever you want to say. The money always comes back. Money is fluid. Money continues to cycle. Like, the universe is always returning money to me. So I don't have to worry about this, right? Like, I'm going to focus on, if it's a relationship, let's say I'm worried I'm never going to fall in love again because I'm in this situation. This is being cleared, so I'm pouring now into what I want. This is being cleared from my past, so the real love that I deserve can come in now. Now there's an opening. Now there is room to receive, and the relationship that I desire and deserve is already on its way to me. It now has more room to come into my life, right? So we pour into what we want, and we catch ourselves when we're pouring into what we're afraid of. Mental action at this time. Confront your idealization of fun romance and making art. So again, that's the fun house, right? Where all the fun stuff is. Notice so the idealization is the highest version of it, but also it can become our conditions. Like, these can't happen unless they meet this criteria, unless, the weather's nice, or unless I'm in a good mood, or unless nothing's going wrong in my life, then I can have fun. If we're doing that to ourselves, then we're taking away our most potent ally, or our most potent weapon in our arsenal, which is to enjoy ourselves in spite of the thing we're afraid of, which is also right in our face right now, or being touched on, or feels ominous. When things feel ominous, your greatest superpower is the ability to enjoy your life. Because in idealization, we kind of go black and white in our thinking. It's all this way, or it's nothing. And in reality, the people who have the most grit, the most tenacity, and the most resilience are the ones who can figure out how I can have fun while also facing this monster, right? Like, how, some people are like, I don't see how you can do it. I feel like the movie that's coming into my head is like a Pixar movie called Onward, right? With these two brothers, and they're sort of going through this Dungeons and Dragons challenge, I think. But I don't know why, but they're showing me like, look at a movie like that. It kind of illustrates how you can be faced with a really big obstacle and still find a way to have fun. There are still fun moments, and the fun moments are the bonding energy. When we find that, that's the glue that holds us together. That's what gives us our tenacity, our grit, and our resilience. And those are the things we need right now. We need them a lot. So understand that even laughing at the scenario you find yourself in, or like, because we get so consumed by what we're afraid of that we actually believe that this thing has any power over us. We forget that we are empowering what we're afraid of, which is why Mars and Pluto came together. They're like, hey, stop this. Like, stop empowering what actually disempowers you so that you can be empowered in yourself, right? So when we're able to laugh in the face of our own fear, we've just pulled energy out of it. We just went, like, this is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous of me to be so afraid and think like it's this choice or nothing. Of course there's more. The universe promises more. Like the one thing the universe guarantees you is that there is more. There's always expansion. The very nature of our universe, how it moves, is in an expanded state, which means there's always more. So whatever your fear is telling you, it's probably not accurate. And if you weren't in a state of fear or overwhelm or upset, you'd see that. And the ability to reach for joy, for humor, and even fun in the face of it allows you to sort of snap out of it and be like, this is so, it's scary, but at the same time, it's hilarious. Like, I can't believe that this is the thing that scares me. And as soon as that thinking starts in, tenacity, grit, resilience, like all of this super, you become like, remember the old like chant you'd say as a kid, like, I'm rubber, you're glue, what bounces off me sticks to you, right? You become the rubber. You become the thing that gets, everything just bounces off of you because you have that ability to tap into something, and you're overcoming this weird list of like, these things have to be met in order for me to be able to enjoy life. That's about idealization and a little bit of black and white thinking. So this is challenging us to be like, it's okay that it's messy. It's okay that it's weird or uncomfortable. There's still light here. And when you choose to reach for that, you are already breaking the spell of fear. Physical action at this time. Mars says, force yourself to be part of something overwhelming and do it dramatically. We want to be careful with forcing, right? Don't push too hard. Allow yourself. I'd ask Mars to tone it down a little and say, maybe allow yourself to be part of something overwhelming and do it dramatically. The point is, recognize that there is a umbrella energy, which is like face your monster. This is the umbrella energy, right? which means that everybody's facing a monster. And so collectively, we're facing a monster in a way. Each one of us who learns to shake it off and laugh at it and find that tenacity, right, that I just talked about, we add to the collective energy. And the more people who do it, the more of us can do it. It's like this weird ripple effect. It's the 100th monkey effect. So believe it or not, you being able to shake it off and laugh at this or find the fun in a weird situation gives, it actually empowers the collective, because each one of us that can do this in this moment actually makes the collective energy better at doing it, right? So you might feel like, sometimes we can feel like when we're addressing our personal needs, we're missing the collective. You can't, because you're you're connected to the collective. So anything that you're going through personally is rippling into the collective. So it's serving a greater purpose than you realize. And that's where the drama and that's where the like big energy comes in, because you think this is just for you, but we're collectively winning every time you win, right? And yes, we collectively lose every time someone loses, but let's focus on what we're pouring into, and we're pouring into winning this. And how we're going to do that is we're going to get in there and stay committed to the fact that I'm not just overcoming this for me, somehow I'm helping the world overcome. And that gives you more strength, more grit, and more tenacity. All right, so now let's look at outcomes for Mars in Pisces in the 5th house, or the fun house. Spiritual outcome at this time, the drive for spirituality to ultimately experience the power of love. So really remembering that what I'm pouring into is what will manifest. That's our awareness at the spiritual level. When we activate that, we're activating more positive energy, right? And remember, there are nefarious and negative groups out there who would love it if this slowed you down. They would love it if you got caught up in your negative emotion, because then it helps feed them and their own agendas. So one of the most powerful things you can do is really get conscious at this time that, yeah, this is an upsetting topic or something I didn't want to think about, but it's in my face. And instead of being afraid of this, I'm going to just remember that, yes, this is happening. Yes, I acknowledge my emotional response. And this is what I want. And I would say, and I told someone today, I was like, anytime your ego presents you with what you're afraid of and it gives you a reason why you should focus on that, give 5 reasons why you need to focus on what you're pouring into that you want, right? So we want to counterbalance it. A little bit of juice is going into the negative cup. So let's give more juice, because again, at the end of the day, it's really what weighs more that gets more energy and will become manifest. And as we do this, it affects the collective. And the more positive energy is manifested, the more you're going to feel that love around you. Remember, you're the hero of this story. The hero wins, right? The hero might have a lot of battles and can get battle fatigued and can even feel like they're not winning, but the hero wins and you're winning. And right now it's about being strategic with, does this thought or feeling get to overwhelm me? Or am I going to stay aware and pour more energy into what I'm desiring to create rather than the default creation? Mental outcome at this time, the confrontation of trusting your psychic knowledge of investments, gambles, and other games. So here's why the 5th house is activated. Because choosing love, choosing the positive, choosing what you want, now all these things sound good, right? Like you're like, oh yeah, I like those, but it feels like a risk. Why? Because this monster of this raw nerve energy is right here in front of you. And again, it's like your kryptonite in a way. It's the raw nerve is the kryptonite, right? So it's the thing that makes you feel weak. So choosing all the things that you actually want weirdly feels like a risk right now. It feels like, well, if I give this all the attention and I stop looking at the monster will consume me. And that's a weird lie that comes from our fight or flight nervous system being activated, right? When we go into the autonomic nervous system and we're in fight or flight, one of the things that flight or flight makes us do is it wants to stare right at the threat. I got to watch this threat. Like we become like a prey animal, right? And I got to track the predator. If I stop looking at it, it can attack me. That's what our brain starts telling us when in these situations where we feel really scared, really vulnerable, really exposed, really weak, right? It's hard to take our eyes off of it. And unfortunately, keeping your attention on it only makes it bigger in this case. It doesn't shrink it down and it doesn't reduce the threat. It actually exaggerates the threat. So this is where you're going to be like, okay, I love the idea, Therese, of pouring into what I want and having fun and laughing at it. That sounds great, but it also sounds really dangerous. And what if it doesn't work? And what if everything falls apart? And then I followed instructions that were stupid and now I'm in more pain. It's going to feel like that. You're going to have to try to choose logically anyway. You're going to have to try and trust the universe. You're going to have to trust the very advice you would give someone else in the situation, right? If you weren't there, if you weren't activated and scared and whatever's going on, but you were watching someone who was going through that, you'd probably say to them, like, you need to focus on what you want because you keep giving this all your attention and it's growing. And if you want to make it smaller, you actually have to do what feels counterintelligent at the time and focus on what you want, how you can enjoy this moment, like how you could literally laugh at this. In going through it, it's harder to take the advice because, again, it feels scary, feels like a gamble. But if you take yourself out of the scenario and pretend it's someone else, you'll know exactly what to do. Physical outcome at this time: actions resulting from the indecision of or about your creation. So again, this is the part that's hard, is that you're going to have a lot of trust and faith right now in the advice that you're hearing and also the advice you would give someone else if it wasn't you in the scenario. You're going to have to trust in that because, again, with fight or flight activated in the body, whenever fear is present, whenever we feel threatened, this activates and it's not logical. See, this is the part that's so crazy. Is when we're in that headspace, it feels very logical. I'm like, no, it's absolutely dumb to not focus on this huge thing in front of me. And I want to be clear, this isn't about avoidance, right? So that's how a stressed out brain might hear it, is like, just avoid it, don't look at it. No, you're going to have to face it. You're going to have to say, so this is what I'm afraid of, right? So this is where I feel weak and vulnerable. And I'm worried that things are going to fall apart if I have to deal with this. You will have to deal with it, and you will want to acknowledge how you feel. Those things, you still do them. And you have to put more effort on pouring into what you want. So it's a really weird balance of facing it head on, acknowledging that this is the experience you're having so that you're not suppressing or denying or ignoring. And you're going to have to put energy into, this is really who I am, and this is really what I want, and this is really where I'm going. It's going to require a lot of trust, it's going to require a lot of faith, and it's going to require the effort to do it because, again, there's not going to be a strong desire to go there. The desire with the mind space that it puts you in is to kind of focus on and fixate on the problem. But energetically speaking, we know that's just going to create more. So we got a little bit of a challenge in front of us. And adding to that, just the intensity of like, I'm going to just do it. I'm going to white knuckle it and do everything. I'm going to do it right now and to the full extent. Be careful with that. You deserve a break from all of this. So while trying to shift it and remind yourself that this is the illusion and what's real is what I make of it, while you're trying to do that, you're going to need to give yourself some space, some breaks. You need to go for a walk, take a bath, watch your favorite show, play a board game with a friend, like do something to get out of that space for a little bit. You don't need to constantly be in fight mode although your nervous system might be like, that's all we can do, it's not. Give yourself the space and the breaks. I'm going to be accountable to everybody right now, and I am not going to push myself. You know, it's like, as soon as my 10 o'clock absolute don't go past this point hits, I will not go past that point. All the supplies get put down, get put away. I back off and I let myself have my lovely night ritual of, I'm going to dry brush, I'm going to take my bath, I'm going to do all my little things that nurture myself and my nervous system, and I'm going to remind myself that there is no race, there is no, you know, horrible like buzzer that's going to ring and mean that I messed up or missed out. Not going to happen. And when my nervous system tries to take me there, I should probably step away from making and give myself space and maybe listen to me talking right now so that I remember, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to blow it. I'm going to manage this energy. And I also wish that for you, because no matter what it is you're going through, we're in this boat together. Everybody's looking at something that is too much for them at this point in time. But we can all choose to collectively pour our energy into the things that help us feel nurtured, loved, safe, enthusiastic, inspired, grounded, all the good, peaceful, all the good stuff. We still can do that in the midst of this. And so just remember, you always have a choice, and that I'm rooting for you and I have your back, and I believe you can do this. And with that, I'm giving you so much love. Mwah. You've got this, and I will see you next week. Happy Thanksgiving.